When we were in the studio, I said to Hussein, I said, what is this furniture doing in here? And he went, that's a dress. And I said, get out of here.
I'm Hussein Chalayan, and this is my Autumn-Winter 2000 collection called Afterwards.
I remember Anna Winter coming to the London shows one season, and she said, who should I be seeing of the young designers? And on the list was Hussein Chalayan. From the beginning, this was clearly a very singular voice, very, very unique perspective. Hussein's Turkish Cypriot, and he grew up with a lot of violence and kind of impending sense of dystopia. That was also woven into the fabric of his clothes in this really fascinating, compelling way.
In Cyprus, there was the intercommunal war that started in the 60s. And I remember asking my mother, what would be the first thing you would want to take with you when you know that your neighborhood will be raided? And she said to me, it would be like my old photographs, it would be a blanket, and maybe my favorite clothes. And then that was something that stayed with me. But I wanted to turn this kind of, let's say, horrific situation into like a performance. The show starts off with a family that's sitting down, and then I just wanted the family to be there because this can happen to any family.
Again, this was very, very autobiographical, and I think there was a remembered childhood moment when there was a threat of imminent attack.
At the beginning of the show, there was this real family of people. They were models. Well, I just needed them to look real. We just left them and kept them as real as possible.
You know, the show opened and you had this room set with 60s artsy suburbia furniture.
People probably thought it was just kind of a decoration, or it was just there as an idea. But actually, that eventually those objects would be something that the models would engage with.
I proposed to Hussein to design a language for his fashion shows only. I proposed that the music would be always live, directed by, of course, inspiration of his collection.
I wanted Bulgarian throat singers.
Very haunting kind of a cappella sounds that these women were producing, which already, of course, set the scene in this rather dramatic way.
Then it will start with this line that continued throughout the layers. I wanted to look at how you can create this optic effect with depth and a line at the same time.
With the use of piping and volume and pleating, he creates a surrealist and more voluminous take.
Dresses that were sort of deceptively simple, but actually were constructed with all these kind of folds and integral pleats, almost like origami, or like you're making a child's aeroplane out of folded newspaper.
When I saw the collection, I saw some really very strong shapes, and I kind of saw this idea that was a two-dimensional shape becoming three-dimensional, and that was my source of inspiration for the hair for Hussein show.
And the makeup was also quite remarkable. We had these kind of clear shaped plastic add-ons. And I think this idea really came from making them look a bit more East European. And the makeup was done by Pat McGrath.
There was this amazing sculptural dress that seemed to have been kind of carved from very, very tightly gathered tulle. It was this wonderful silhouette that looked almost like clipped topiary.
It was like wearing a feather, but it was also very big. So I remember that I had a little bit of a problem relaxing my arms because I didn't know where to put them.
When I saw the blue dress in the collection, I remember seeing it just thinking, oh, that's really exquisite, and I've never ever seen anything like that before. This idea kind of fell into place. That what I wanted to do was I wanted to have this texture in the hair and just kind of like carve these two-dimensional and three-dimensional shapes into it.
This is a look that goes into a museum, is exhibited, is talked about, is remembered, and look at the look next to it is something that you can wear. So it's sort of even more admirable that he can apply his skills to things that are extreme and to make something special out of something that's ordinary, like a shift dress.
And then these gloves, which are part of the garments themselves, that are actually pockets at the same time. They came as a sheepskin coat.
Devon could give a different allure and meaning to any creative idea. It's gimmicky, she will take the gimmick off, she will add the edge on.
So the whole idea behind this collection and show was about displacement. but I can't rationalize every single theme for you in such a way that it's connected to the main theme, because it's more of a feeling you create, but you have to stick to the language of clothes as well that you've developed. So you combine the ambience of what you're trying to do with your language of clothing. These 3 black dresses are supposed to be the bad omen in a way. They're like kind of almost 3 black birds. So actually it was supposed to be the omen before the exodus, so to speak.
At the end of the show, 4 girls came on. These sort of suburban splay-legged chairs that we had seen had kind of grey slip covers. They started turning the slip covers inside out and kind of unzipping elements of them, and you realized that actually these slip covers that had been perfectly tailored to fit these very geometric chairs were dresses.
It was quite technical. Of course, the clothes that were hidden as chair covers, that was like a very long process of trial and error, because whatever fitted the body wouldn't fit the chair automatically. So you had to go back and forth until it was right. I remember it being quite challenging, but also very satisfying.
In a matter of, I don't know, 30 seconds, we had turned our whole living room into ways that we could take it with us.
And through, these kind of fascinating devices of panels that furled and unbuttoned and then buttoned up, and ended up with these 4 kind of amazingly chic dresses that had come out of 4 slipcovers, and it was really electrifying. I think there was a kind of a moment of spontaneous applause in the audience. You must remember that this was a period when people were sitting there with their notebooks and pencils and not distracted by trying to capture the moment on their iPhones. So their hands were freed up to applaud. That would have been a sensational finale in itself. And then Natalia Semenova came in, and she was wearing a kind of grey skirt and an asymmetric bodice. And she lifted out a kind of central circular panel right in the middle of the coffee table. And she kind of gingerly stepped inside the coffee table, which was just about... that the opening was just about wide enough to contain her sort of narrow skirt and legs, and that she'd sort of pulled them up and they kind of unfurled and create this kind of extraordinary sculptural A-line wooden crinoline. It was certainly unlike any other garment I'd ever seen on a runway.
I think the biggest trick here was the weight. The model had to be able to lift it up, and you had to be able to walk in it. And the other trick was the legs had to flip up. They were spring-loaded, so as soon as the model picked it up, they'd just flip back in. I really thought so many things would go wrong during the show because the models maybe wouldn't get the process right. But luckily, everything went as planned.
That was a complete surprise to us as well. We weren't told much, and I think that was for a reason.
That was a real moment. I know that no one was actually expecting something like that to happen, and that was always something that Hussein kind of really loved.
We helped make possible dreaming of a show in a different format.
It was about kind of immersing yourself in this experience and allowing yourself the time to dream and be taken to a place that you've never been to before.
Somehow the show got more appreciated in time. For fashion, what it's done is that it shows that you can challenge the borders of fashion, I guess. This show definitely contributed to how fashion can be pursued and perceived.